So, good morning, good day, good evening. Hello, everyone. And here we are to do this morning meditation or together. And little bit the topic of theme of this session of mindfulness meditation is what's called investigation or exploration, a process of discovery. And as one of the 7 factors of awakening, it's sometimes said to be the most important one for the purpose of awakening, for the purpose of freedom. And there's something about choosing to explore, to discover, to investigate what our experience is, which is an expression or a manifestation of freedom. No matter how difficult something might be, to choose to take another look at this, to step towards it, to see it better. Or sometimes we step away from it to get a better view of it. But it's always to discover, to see, to investigate. And when we do that, we're not a victim of experience. When we do that, we're not under the control of experiences around us, within us. When we do that, our attention is not being hijacked by our hindrances or our neurosis or our fears, whatever it might be. And so this ability to decide, okay, what is this? What is this experience I'm having? And not to answer that question with words, not to answer that question with an explanation, but to answer it with a clear seeing, to answer it with a clear perception, feeling for what's happening. So, taking a meditation posture, and in some sense this expression of freedom, which is to take a good look, begins with caring for your posture, choosing to use this wonderful resource of attention to scan through your posture and to make small adjustments. That not only help you be more settled and more relaxed, but also a little bit more alert, physically alert, ready to discover, ready to see what's here. And then to take a few moments to discover your own breathing. Without doing any different breathing, just notice how it is for you to be breathing. To explore it, to feel it. And as you do so, maybe you can notice a difference between being entangled with your breathing and wanting to be different or concerned about it, and simply discovering it, simply becoming familiar. Oh, this is how it is now. Without being for or against. Without being analytical and preferences. Just discover it in its own way, how the breathing is. And then, having done so, now to take a few long, slow, deep breaths. As a way of establishing yourself in this body, here and now. And then, as you exhale, a long exhale, relaxing, settling in, releasing yourself, the tensions of the body. And then to let your breathing return to normal. A little bit more, it's useful to release and relax the holdings of the body as you exhale. And often enough, the tensions and holdings of our body give pressure or give, maybe a kind of pressure to the mind to keep thinking about things, being preoccupied. And as we relax the body, there is less of that pressure to think. Softening the face, around the eyes. Softening around the shoulders. Releasing the shoulders, maybe adjusting your hands a little, elbows. So the whole arm is a little bit more at ease. And perhaps softening the belly. And then settling into your body breathing. In whatever way breathing is most compelling or easiest, most pleasant for you to attend to. In the belly, in the chest, in the nostrils, wherever it might be. And then very simply choose to be with your breathing, to discover how it actually is now, distinct from how you want it to be. In a sense, to explore it, to discover it, to investigate it. Feeling the freedom in that choice. That you're exercising your ability to direct your attention, to discover and feel and get to know better Noticing the difference between the bodily experience of inhaling and exhaling. Noticing the difference between the experiences of breathing where there's some tightness or constriction and where there's some looseness and releasing. And to investigate it, to explore it, means to feel it on its own terms. Step towards it to just get to know it better without it needing to be different, without trying to fix it. Just know constriction here, looseness here. And discovering a little bit what it's like for you to be aware of your breathing. What it's like for you to explore, investigate the experience of breathing. Not to make anything right or wrong, but how is it for you to discover the kind of discovery that of a naturalist who's simply discovering something in nature, patiently observing it as a natural phenomena, noticing how you are in relationship to mindfulness of breathing as a natural phenomena. If there's resistance or reluctance, eagerness, if there's straining or complacency, whatever it might be, discover it, notice it, and let it be that simple. The simpler the discovery is, the more freedom there is. Freedom to let things just be as they are. Freedom from our internal reactions of things. Just being aware, discovering, seeing. And then returning to the breathing. Maybe seeing how simple the discovery can be. Just discovery, just seeing. Not seeing anything special or hidden, but just how it appears, just how it shows itself to you. If you get lost in thought, that's just another natural phenomena. And you, the naturalist, that's studying it, seeing it. This is how it is. And then settling back into your breathing. a silent discovery, a silent investigation of breathing, where there's an intimacy or a clarity about the different sensations that come into play as you breathe. And to follow along, to observe and the distinct sensations of breathing in and breathing out, distinct sensations of the beginning, middle, and end of the inhale, beginning, middle, and end of the exhale. Discovering your breathing. And very easily, with ease, maybe you can feel the freedom, the independence that you bring to your experience by choosing to discover it, to see it more fully, more clearly, without it needing to be anything different. even when our thinking is pleasant, if we get preoccupied and lost in thought, there is also a loss of freedom. But to wake up our capacity to discover what's happening here is to enact our freedom. And asking the question, what's happening here, is not to be answered per se, but to encourage taking a gentle, clear look. What is happening here? Just seeing and feeling, and just what's obvious. No need to think or probe. Just discover what is showing itself to us now. To investigate does not need to involve a contraction or a tightening of attention or the mind. It's more useful to have it be involved in opening and expansion of attention, of awareness of the mind. Just open and receptive. And it's possible to let this investigation factor come to its fullness in simply being mindful of the breathing. Breathing with greater intimacy and clarity. Discovering the obvious experiences of breathing in and breathing out with clarity and distinctions. with a quiet mind, a mind that gets quieter the more we discover. So to bring this sitting to an end, to use your freedom and investigation, your ability to discover, be open, be available, to you see if you can use it to have that freedom of openness, of discovery for others, to allow them to be as they are, because you are free. So, and I see that you could hear my phone calls with my wife, so perhaps you can hold all this in investigation and freedom and simple discovery, how it is. And in doing so, may all beings be free. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be safe. And may all beings everywhere be happy. So let me talk a few minutes about this, what's often called the investigation factor. So not quite loud enough, someone says. So let me see. So I think now, is it better now, the sound? Okay. So let me say a few minutes here about the investigation factor of awakening. And it's usually called investigation. And people who look into this will say that it's probably not the best translation, but it's a pretty good one overall, as an overarching generalization, because it involves a exploration, a discovery, a deeper discernment of what our experience is. And this process of exploration, in English, is often called investigation. And but investigation, if it means a kind of a deeper probing and searching, it's not what is referred to when we're doing this vipassana practice, but rather it's a state of openness and receptivity to allow the experience to show itself fully to us. And for me, it's represented by the question, what? What is happening here? What? Just what is it? But we never look for an answer as more that the what prompts a clear looking, a clear discovery of kind of a silent, kind of sensing or feeling or looking or perceiving of what is here. And in doing so, we're beginning to enact or tap into our capacity for freedom. That it's so easy to be caught and entangled by our experiences, by our thoughts, by our feelings, by what's happening in the world. And there's so many ways we get entangled, so many ways in which we get attached, we get reactive to how things are. And when there's reactivity by itself is not freedom. To respond with choice, to respond with wisdom, can be an enactment of our freedom. But to react is not. So if we're always reacting and being pulled around by our thoughts and hijacked by our thoughts, if we feel like we're a victim of experience, then we haven't discovered freedom. And one of the ways it can begin, this freedom, is in acts of mindfulness, to be mindful of what's here. But also, acts of mindfulness can also grow to be a little bit stronger forms of freedom, which is investigation. To see, to discover what is here. And the kind of core investigation that's part of vipassana practice is what for on the retreat Inez talked about yesterday, Dhamma Vichaya. And Vichaya comes from the word prefix vi, and then the root word caya. And chaya means to heap up, to accumulate, and vi means to separate. And human beings have an amazing and very important capacity to generalize, to lump things together, to hold concepts of things all together, and they're useful. But also they can limit our ability to see clearly what's here, to discern, distinguish the details of our experience. So if I say that I had a difficult morning with the technology, then well, that's a generalization. But what specifically was the experience like of being here with the technology for this morning? Some of it was quite delightful and enjoyable and inspiring to see the people in the retreat, to see the people on YouTube and the chats, for example, and some of it was quite nice to be exploring the Dharma as I spoke. It was nice to sit and meditate while there was some quiet for me, and I was meditating. And then there was the issue of the technology that there's so many different devices and things here that I got confused about which battery charger that was supposed to be at home and one was supposed to be here, and so this went it suddenly went dark, my laptop, and it wasn't actually an unpleasant experience at all. It was just it just was what it was. And suddenly this was there, and there was an issue to look into, and probably the most unpleasant part of it all was needing to ask my wife for some help when she's busy at home, and also wondering how I was going to get back and have everything running in time for the Zoom people. And then the awkwardness of realizing that you could hear what I was saying, some of you on YouTube. And that's, what impact did that have on people meditating? But that was all very particular. And as I distinguished all the different parts of it, I wouldn't say it was a challenging morning here. It had its unique challenges, its own particular things, but I didn't lump it all together as like a lousy morning with technology. It was all these little, if I wrote out the details, the distinctions of moment by moment what was happening, there were challenging parts and not challenging parts. There were pleasant parts and maybe some parts that were not so pleasant. And this ability to begin distinguishing and not lump. And in a sense, Buddhists are, if you know the distinction between lumpers and splitters, Buddhism thrives on being splitters, on really seeing more and more carefully what's really happening here. What are the details rather than generalizing about things? And so this idea of this ability, this clarity of mind that gets cultivated through mindfulness, when the mind gets clearer and clearer, and the details, the particularities, the details of experience, the unique little component parts of experience begin revealing themselves more and more and more. And where that becomes particularly important is when the capacity to distinguish, to see the particularities, the details of what goes on, goes together with wisdom, the wisdom factor. And the wisdom factor is the many things that are considered wisdom, the factor of wisdom in this practice we do. But one of the core aspects is being able to make the distinction between what is helpful and what is not. The distinction between what is wholesome and what is not. What is healthy and what is not. or the distinction between what has an ouch in it or an ah, this is good, or a distinction between what is where freedom is or where freedom is not. That distinction is what wisdom is capable of making. Mindfulness puts us in the clarity that we see things as they are and see them clearer and clearer. And wisdom sees what is useful and what is not. And that distinction is where we discover the path, where we discover where the choices can be. And so the simple distinction between being entangled in experience and being free when we investigate it, with wisdom we see actually it's better to be free than entangled. And so to the degree which we have in a capacity, we put effort and energy into going in the direction of freedom. And in this case, investigate or discern or see more clearly what the experience is. And so it's said that the investigation factor of awakening, that clarity of mind that can really see the details of experience, not lumping the generalization of what it is, that ability then it inspires the effort factor of awakening, the energy, because we see, oh, this is the direction to go. This is where freedom is. This is where peace is. This is where the lack of stress, the lack of suffering is found. And that's inspiring to make that choice and go in that direction. To go in that direction is another manifestation of our capacity for inner freedom. And as we walk this path, we keep discovering more and more ways in which we can manifest or enact our freedom, until at some point freedom becomes a state that we live in, as opposed to something we find in the details of our, of how we live and the choices we make in our life. So the investigation, mindfulness, leads to the capacity to see clearly. That's called discernment, making distinctions, investigation. And that in itself then is a prompt or a catalyst for the effort factor in practice, so that the effort factor of awakening can get born and come to fulfillment. And that'll be the topic for the next topic for the retreat, and the next topic for YouTube and tomorrow morning. So thank you, and I think hopefully this little technology issue today wasn't too much of a interruption at all, and it all worked well enough for everyone. So thank you very much, and so we'll continue.